Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's LinkedIn Live session hosted by SALT.agency. In this session, we're diving into the topic of user-generated content and how we see UGC playing an increasingly pivotal component of our marketing strategy, SEO strategies, and content strategies moving into 2024 and beyond. Just before we jump in, just let everyone know this session will be available on the SALT YouTube channel in a couple of weeks' time and will be available for playback on LinkedIn through the same session link you're joining today. So be sure to subscribe to the SALT YouTube, follow the SALT LinkedIn page, just to keep up to date with all our LinkedIn live sessions, events, other SEO content and marketing videos. So for today's session, please drop your questions and comments into LinkedIn, into the same window you're now viewing this through, and we'll try to answer as many as we can towards the end of the session. Also, drop us a comment to let know where you're joining us from, and please let us know your experiences of using UGC as part of your strategies, or who you're seeing doing a really great job. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce today's co-presenter and SALT's Head of Content, Andy Jessup. Andy, good afternoon.
Hello, Dan. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. I appreciate we're both one's remote, one's in office, but yeah, we're making it work through the internet.
Absolutely.
Do you want to give yourself a quick elevator intro so everyone knows who you
Yeah,
are?
of course. Thank you for coming, everyone. My name is Andy Jessup. I've been working in SEO for 12 years now. I've been working with SALT for, I think, 9 years, coming up to 10 years. I am the head of content. I've worked across a number of sectors, specializing in SaaS, e-commerce, and a few kind of lifestyle brands, and I help and manage the team at SALT.agency, helping our clients get to where they want to be.
Great stuff. So let's get the ball rolling, because I appreciate everyone is here at lunchtime on a Friday. So let's start with the basics. What is UGC?
UGC is basically brand-specific content that is created by users. It can take various forms, whether that's in comments, in forums, or even on, say, commercial pages. It can be across social media with images and videos. And it's something that brands are starting to realize is becoming more and more important. And I think I read a statistic somewhere that said 73% of marketers now think or believe that user-generated content is one of three kind of pillars of SEO. And I think that's kind of right. There's increasing ways that we can generate content for brands to get ourselves out there, and UGC is becoming increasingly important. What we've seen with Google now is that it started prioritizing user-generated content due to Google Perspective. People are searching through other mediums like TikTok. There's a lot of debate at the moment, as you know, Dan, whether TikTok is a search engine. I kind of believe it is. For example, if I go to the gym and I'm looking for workout routines at the end of a set just to finish something off, I can find an answer within 10, 15 seconds to just add something on to my kind of exercise. And you can go into TikTok and you can find influencers that are, say, sponsored by, say, Protein Works, something like that. And you can get the answer straight away. So what Google started doing, it knows that people just want quick, relevant answers that are from actual people. So it started prioritizing, say, forum kind of questions, forum answers. And that's really important, especially when you have, say, let me think, in the SaaS community, where you have software. What tends to happen there is they will build really great, commercially viable kind of content hubs that answer a lot of top of the funnel, middle of funnel answers. But what you have, say, in SaaS is you'll have developers using software or technology, and they're not actually going to Google for their answers anymore. They're going on to places like Reddit, where there's a whole kind of community based there. So they will actually skip these kind of brands that have built these kind of huge centers. So it's really important, especially if you're working in software, to kind of do your research and find out what people are actually asking, like they may be asking like how to use the software, whether there's a bug that's just been released or not released, but it's just happened, or there's like a new version that they're looking for feedback on. And I think it's really important to find out what people are actually asking, so you can build that into your own kind of campaigns, put that into your own user kind of guidelines or any FAQs you may have on your page. And as well with SaaS as well, it's building that community, because the great thing about user-generated content is that it brings you this kind of fresh, relevant content that is basically free in a way. But it's really important as well to have that moderated. So some brands, you won't have as many bad actors in it that you may have if, say, your brand has just had some kind of PR issue, or for some reason it might be a bit controversial in the past. There are things you can do to limit kind of bad actors. Like, you may want to no index a page if the conversation has gone kind of led astray, or you may have kind of UGC attributes for links, so you can identify which links are to like external sources that you can trust. But one really good thing you can do actually is, if you have, say, a hero of a community, you will have people within brand communities. They're just there. They just love the brand. They will talk about the brand. They will champion it, and they will send users to other pages on your website. So they might send them to a specific answer on a page, or they might send them to a commercial page. So you can actually take those attributes off certain people and certain comments, and I think that's really important. Another thing as well, you can also find with UCGs that when people are asking these questions on your website or on your community forum, they will kind of naturally put in long tail keywords, which a lot of brands may not have the time or investment to go into. So say if we're working in e-commerce and you might be only a small brand, you may only have time to research some of the top level keywords. So for example, a makeup brand, you may only have time to find 4 or 5 keywords for that specific product that you're looking for. But when you have people asking questions underneath about that product, it might be about skin tone, stuff like that, you can find out how people really search for these products and services. And I think that's really great.
So in there, you said things like obviously around Reddit, around I mean, we can invert other things into like Quora, Stack Overflow, other forums, depending on what your niche or kind of vertical is. So none of these are kind of new, and I know as well, from working with a number of different brands, what we're basically saying there is there's another asset for content to go and where they can optimize for. But these have existed for quite a while. So how would pivoting and including more both kind of community building as well as external content placements on things like Reddit and building that UGC community, how will that benefit us as a business, and how would that help basically us leverage these efforts to better improve and contribute to our success metrics?
Well, it's a really good question. So the thing is with UGC, it is limitless. So you can, like I say, you can find out how people are searching. You can create a database of information that people are asking for very quickly find the answers to. And you can also like you can find issues on your websites as well that you may not be aware of. So for example, I have a friend who owns a street gown site. I don't know if you know, it's like street garments. So it's like secondhand clothes from, say, Palace, Supreme, Palm Angels, really cool brands. And they had an issue. So what you have, obviously, the clothes, there's different clothing sizes. If you get clothes from the US, it's got different numbers, say, from Japan or places like that you might have on your store. And they had people commenting, and within like 2 or 3 days, they were able to kind of stop this issue where the clothes didn't actually fit the descriptions. And they were able to come back straight away, resolve the issue, update all their labels for the clothing on the website, and just communicate with their audience. And I think that's a really important thing, is that you foster this community and foster of care. If you're a massive company, say like Coca-Cola, you don't really have a figurehead. They do at Christmas because they have Santa, of course, but the rest of the time they don't. So it's actually quite hard for them to create this sense of community. But what you can do with UGC is actually foster that by replying to people and encouraging this really, really good atmosphere of answering questions, being personable. So that's really important in marketing these days. And we've seen that on social media, where you have these kind of campaigns, or you may have, see brands talking to one another, like Greggs and Tesco, for some reason, just talking to each other and creating that sense of community. Well, it's not really a sense of community, but it's making it personable for people. I think that's just it's just a quick way to create fresh content. And one thing that is important as well that you've got to mention is Google doesn't actually discern between content that you have created and content that users have created. So it's important, like I said before, to make sure everything's moderated. And I think what a lot of companies forget about is you'll have brand guidelines, you'll have content guidelines, you'll have tech guidelines, but it's very important also to have guidelines for UGC, which will be different for every company depending on their aims and goals.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So kind of going back to one of the early things you said in one of your points as well, around how people are including things like long tail search terms, personal experience, things like that. How do you see that aligning with more, I want to say traditional, even though they've not really been at the forefront for that many years, but more traditionalized SEO objective metrics, such as things like EAT, optimizing for perspectives? How do you see
Oh yeah,
UGC role in this?
well, UGC is like, well, sorry, EAT is massive. So people who don't know, that's experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trust. And that's really making what Google wants to do there is show that if you're a brand, that you are trusted, that you have experience, that you are the brand that knows about your topic and subject area. And part of what Google's doing now is, it's like I said before, it wants to make it more a user-focused experience. So when you have these keywords, you can really incorporate them into, say, your landing pages, into your commercial pages, to ensure that you're answering the questions that people actually want the answers to. And it's been that way for quite a while. What we used to have, say, 10, 15 years ago, when you just put kind of a header on something that was just a keyword, a lot of brands did that. It very quickly became the thing not to do because it's not really as personable as you want it to be. But that's I would say the way to incorporate into your goals and objectives. Make sure that you're appealing to people. Make sure that you're showing that trust, that awareness, and that experience in what you're doing.
No, that's great. And that kind of segues very nicely into kind of the next questions I wanted to ask, because it's about, as you said, it's about building that trust, it's about building that personality. It is a non-commercial message from brands. So
Yeah.
in that ilk, then, which brands are you seeing in different spaces using UGC well, or have used a UGC campaign as part of their content strategy well over the years?
Ooh, that's a very good question. The one that I really like is actually Coca-Cola. Can you remember? I don't think it's going anymore, but can you remember that Share a Coke campaign where they would have your name on it and something like that? That basically took like old school marketing and made it and brought it into like the 21st century, because they had hashtags, they had people talking about it. And I remember looking at the statistics for that, and I swear Coca-Cola had a big kind of decline in sales that just went down every single year. But when they brought out this campaign, and I think sales went up 2% overall worldwide. I think they first brought that out in Australia actually, before it got turned out everywhere else. And I think there was I saw a percentage as well that said like 7%. They had an increase in sales on younger people by something like 7% as well. And just the way that they incorporated that into social media and made it personable. Like they took basically the biggest brand, one of the biggest brands in the world, that, like I said before, it does not have that kind of face, and made it about the people, which is genius. So yeah, I think that's one that stands out to me. I'm pretty sure Ronaldo may have reversed their sales trends at one point, if you remember, when he knocked it off. But you can't really help that sometimes. I think Starbucks did something. Can you remember Starbucks? Like, I think it was maybe
Yeah,
7 years ago.
I think you're referring to the White Cup contest thing they
Yeah,
did from the American, but yeah, they had users decorate and then share cup designs by just providing them with plain white cups. That was quite
yeah,
big on school. I think it was about, yeah, I think it's probably more like 10 years ago now, actually.
yeah. It probably is. I mean, time, as we know, moves faster and faster as you get older, and I'm not saying you, but I am definitely heading that way. But yeah, I remember like they managed to incorporate art into a brand, which it can be quite hard, especially when it's, art I think is kind of a cherished part of culture, that you don't generally want to mess with to an extent. But I think they did that really well. Starbucks again is another brand that tends to have its critics,
Mhm.
but people were just bowled over with that, and I think that was really, really good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's important to remember as well that brand perception ebbs and flows over time,
Yeah.
and most of these brands have those core audiences. I think there's a statistic out there, especially around Coca-Cola, that there's a very large percentage of Coke sales are actually made by people who only buy the beverage once a year or something like that.
Oh,
So it's a very sporadic user base they have. I think other examples of decent, good brands seen, especially doing this, are people like Lures Hotels, who I believe they did a big campaign which was based around family, and they used
oh,
the hashtag to find better utilize guest experiences rather than the art like it's that features versus benefits approach because obviously
yeah,
hotels features, but using the UGC they better showcase the benefit and how that actually impacts the individual. Um, so that was quite a really good one as well. Similarly, I
yeah,
think Parachute Homes did something similar as well. It was Parachute, like their home design, they sell furniture and other things like that. They were very early adopters in replacing stock professional product imagery by using customer photos and kind of
yeah.
crediting back
That's
this fact
important.
of a building. Yeah, I know you spoke a lot about kind of SaaS earlier on as well. Are there any good examples in SaaS that you've seen of where people are definitely moving towards UGC? Anything, especially, I mean, it wouldn't be 2024 if we also didn't mention AI in this as well.
Yeah. Well, that actually, I spoke ahead of this. I spoke to 1 minute. I seem to have gone. I spoke to. Sorry, my screen just went blank for no reason at all. But I actually spoke to because I was thinking about this. I actually spoke to a few developer friends, and I asked them how they conducted their research. Um, Most of them actually said they went to Reddit. There are some, I've got them written down actually. There are some Reddit communities that people will just go into and ask questions. How do I fix this? How do I make this better? I think it's our web dev, our developer, and our Reddit dev.
Mhm.
But then there was another section of people that, sorry, one or two other friends that said, actually, we don't do that anymore. We go to ChatGPT. And there's other like connectors to ChatGPT. I think it's called Find, where you people just put their answers in there. But I think that's a good way of doing it. But I think with say with what you have with AI and ChatGPT, it depends how often it's been updated. It depends how accurate that is. So even if you go to ChatGPT and you're looking for a resolution to an issue, you need to you're always going to test it anyway, but you need to be sure that that's correct. Whereas I think if a developer is having an issue and it's like I said before, a bug issue, it's something that's going to be very current. That community on Reddit will be there, or GitHub will be there to answer it straight away. Um, and again, yeah, I think it's important for SaaS companies to go into those forums and find out and learn what people are talking about so that they can better utilize their campaigns to answer the questions of their direct audience.
No, absolutely. I mean, putting the SEO hat on and kind of expanding on that slightly, I think, and keeping a little bit of the AI thread, then we'll come off AI completely because AI is on everything at the moment. I think with UGC, and a keyword you keep saying a lot, especially throughout this content, is community. I think,
Yeah,
and I feel, especially with the threat of SGE, search generative experience, and the potential rollout of AI as a disruptor to user journey and content consumption, just in how people discover it. People who are actively going online to be participators, to participate in conversation, to get things from a trusted source, and especially in certain niches and verticals where Google regurgitating something via AI and it being a piece of code might not be the desired answer because they want that trusted source.
Yeah.
That level of community and authority as a community, just not even necessarily the authority of the brands, but how valid that can be key moving forward in everything to do with retention of client customers and acquisition.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
Yeah. No, I think it's been an absolute pleasure having this conversation with you, Andy. And I'd like to say it's been a pleasure for everyone who has joined us on LinkedIn Live and through the rest of the chats. So that brings us to the end of today's session. And I'd like to thank yourself, Andy. I'd like to thank you all for joining, both those watching live and those watching on the playbacks on either LinkedIn or YouTube. And again, if you'd like to see more LinkedIn Live sessions, other events, and more content from SALT, please be sure to follow the SALT LinkedIn, subscribe to our YouTube, and I'd like to thank everyone very much for watching. Thank you.
Thank you. See you later, guys.